Why did town base? Woo-hoo-hoo! That's what I'm talking about, baby.
I grew up deep inside of lost emptiness. Only a child, and no one came to save me.
Hello YouTube, it is I, yours truly, and today I'll be teaching you 9 Kai'Sa mechanics that you did not know about. Now start off, who am I? I am a retired professional League of Legends player, and I've been challenger now for 8 years. I also love playing Kai'Sa. She's one of my favorite champions, so I want to show you all the things that I have learned playing her, and all the things that are a little bit less known about Kai'Sa. So let's jump right into it. First of all, one of the most useful things that I don't see a lot of Kai'Sa players do, even the more experienced Kai'Sa players, is using their ulti as an auto reset. Now, what do I mean by this? So most Kai'Sa players, they just think of using their ulti as a gap closer. You want to reach the enemy, you ulti, right? Makes sense. But a really good way to use Kai'Sa ult when you're fighting is to use it as an auto reset. So let's say I'm fighting this guy, you know, auto, and then you can see there, I get 2 auto attacks off incredibly fast by using my ulti as an auto reset. And I'll show it fast, the combo here. So you want to do auto, ult, auto. And you can combine this with flash if you need, like, let's say you need 2 auto attacks to kill somebody and you want to do it really fast. And then you can even combine that with W flash to make it even faster, or have even more damage rather. This is really useful for getting a little bit extra damage in and using your ulti for that burst. And let's get on to number 2. So the other one is a little bit more broad concept, but it's essentially the fact that you can use spells while ulting as Kai'Sa. So what this means is, for example, if you hit a W, you can ulti and then W while you're in the air. And this is especially useful if I can just go to level 18 fast here, level up my W and get my W evolve. I want to show you how it should look like. When you have your W evolve, so I'm going to hit the W on the dummy. And then, when I have my W back up, I ulti and press my W so that I fly. And while I'm flying, my W goes off. And this way, I get to proc my passive. Oh. And what is the benefit of this? The big benefit is that you get to proc your W, or you get to proc your passive, which is such a huge part of your damage. You can see, just that's 700 damage. When if I were to just proc my W alone, it would only be 500 damage. But when I proc the passive on top of it, it's a lot of damage. So the idea is essentially just how you want to play it, how you want to do the combo. So you're going to hit the first W, and then you're going to have to wait for your second W to come back up of cooldown. You're going to be ulting, and then while you're ulting, you're channeling your W in the air, having your mouse cursor above the target you want to hit. And that way you get an instant W, you get your passive proc, and you do an insane amount of burst, which is why AP Kai'Sa later on is such a good assassin. A lot of people know this with W, but they don't know that you can actually do it with other spells as well. So if I want to Q this target dummy, I can W onto this guy and then Q while I am ulting, and I can Q this dummy. See? There I got an isolated Q on him. You can also E while ulting. And this can be useful for when you have your E evolve, like we do now, I can essentially be stealthed while ulting. So if I do something like this, they didn't see me, you know. Tar, show the enemy POV. They didn't see shit. Which can be very useful for like escaping threats and surprising people. So another big one that I just did there is I canceled my evolve animation. How did I do that? Well, there are a few different ways of doing it. One, you can make your recall be bound to Control B, and then you can press Control E and B at the same time. And another is to just press with the mouse, left click on the evolve icon, and then press either E, W, or B at the same time. The most useful one is your E, because then you can, you know, run faster out of base while you are evolving. And the timing is quite important. I recommend going into practice tool and practicing it, and it should look something like this. You can see no animation, nothing. I just used my E, and now my E is evolved. And you can also do it with recall, which I can show here. If I just go and get my Q evolve, it should look something like this. You can see no animation. Quite useful. Recommend practicing in practice tool. Another very, very useful tip on Kai'Sa and mechanic is that you can W flash. This is actually extremely useful, because a lot of the time in the early game, you need to hit your W no matter what to win trades, but enemy is not stupid, right? They're going to be playing behind minions, maybe behind their own support, so you can't get that W. But we don't want to be a noob, right? We don't want to hit the guy that's in front, so how can we do this? Well, what we can do is we can W flash. That way, it's extremely hard to predict, because you need to see the Kai'Sa W animation and then react to that. But if we do flash W, that's pretty slow. That's pretty easy to react to. Very, very important for the early game, for fighting. We want to use W flash to hit Ws that we normally wouldn't be able to, or to just straight up surprise people. Because as well, if a person is here, maybe if we W like this, they're going to flash our W and we maybe lose the 2-2. So instead of just Wing like that, we'll W flash instead. You can also blast cone W. So what does this actually do? So you can get a really funky blast cone angle. And a W that's like really pretty much impossible to dodge, because it's like in the roof of the game, you know? It looks really weird. Like, how is somebody gonna dodge that, you know? It can be a really good cheese if you're close to a blast cone, you know, and you can like fight someone like that, and you can get on top of them, and then you can combine it with your ulti maybe to do something a little bit like this. Bomba. This one is kind of, it's intuitive, but a lot of people don't think about it. So Kai'Sa W, incredibly big hitbox, right? Incredibly big hitbox. And what does that really mean? That means that, for example, if we want to hit the person that is behind this target dummy, if we just remove these other two, like if we want to hit this person that is behind this target dummy, so let's say this guy's a minion, right? This first guy's a minion, second guy's a champ. We want to hit the guy that's the champ. How do we do that? Well, at first glance, you might just be like, okay, we just put it here. No, then it'll get blocked. And the thing is, with a champion that has a thinner skill shot, maybe you would shoot it like right here. But that's not enough on Kai'Sa. On Kai'Sa, you need to really aim it really far out. Even further than that, you know? Even further than that, it's still hitting. Still hitting. Still hitting, even when it's here. This is how far out you need to aim it, right? So then, for example, in this case, from this angle, I can't hit this guy. I can't. Can't quite do it. But if I'm now here, now, you know, and you can see how it doesn't really look like this would hit if you're just looking at the outline, you know. It looks like this would probably miss, especially when it's more like a little bit here. And it is close, right? But the hitbox is so big that if you want to hit someone that is to the side, you need to really aim it to the side. You can see how it's like getting sucked up by the first one, because the hitbox is just that damn big. So this is useful because a lot of the time with normal champs, maybe if, you know, they're kind of angled like this, you'd think that you just want to aim the skill shot a little bit to the right. But this is always going to hit the first guy. So on Kai'Sa, you need to aim it like really far out to the right, so you can actually hit the target, you know? A lot further than you normally would. Like on something like an Astral, you'd aim it on the person, right? But with Kai'Sa, you more want the edge to hit him, especially if he's blocked by another target. You can see how like weird this looks, that I'm aiming here when the target is here. But if I aim on him, it gets blocked. And that's how you want to use this W hitbox to your advantage, to catch people off guard. Because despite the fact that they're behind minions, if they're angled off to the side, you can angle your W and still hit them. Very, very important on Kai'Sa. You want to use your ulti to jump over walls. And while this might be pretty intuitive, there's a lot of walls you can jump over as Kai'Sa that you might not have thought about. For example, here. With Kai'Sa, you can ulti over this wall. You can also ulti over the other way. It's incredibly useful. And it works just like Flash, where if the half of it is above the wall, then you can ulti over. You can also ulti over this wall. And even if the target is here, you can still ulti over the wall. So you don't need them always all completely up against the wall. They can be kind of out of it, and you can still get over the wall. This one is not enough, right? It's just barely not enough. You can also ulti over this wall. In that angle you can't. This is a bit too much. But can do this angle. So learn your angles with the Kai'Sa ults. A lot of people don't expect someone to like Kai'Sa ult, for example, over this wall, because just the walls are so thick. So Kai'Sa Q has an execute. A lot of people don't know this because it doesn't show up unless you hover shift. But Kai'Sa, minions below 35% health take 200% damage. So what this means is that if you want to kill minions as Kai'Sa, you really want to make them low first, and then have your Q be the finisher. I can show you here a little demonstration. Noob Kai'Sa presses Q right now. Not that much damage, right? While better Kai'Sa makes all minions low, and then the Q kills everybody. My Q not gonna do that much damage, but if I make these minions low, now my Q can finish the whole wave. Perfect. You really want to auto-take the minion wave down and get it low first, and then you can execute them with the Q. Kai'Sa Q. It looks like it has way longer range than your auto-attack. It doesn't. It's fake. One of them is like edge-to-edge hitbox, and the other is like base-to-base hitbox, some shit like that. So despite the fact that Kai'Sa Q looks like it has way longer range, it is actually the same range as your auto attack. So if you can't auto attack them, you can't Q them, which is weird because like right now you'd think I can Q based on the tooltip, but I can't. So don't let the tooltip fool you. Q and auto attack, same range. Another useful thing that I can't actually show because I don't think I can give the dummy a spell shield is that the Q, every missile counts as a spell. So for example, for Sivir spell shield or for Banshees, only one hit of the Q breaks the spell shield. So Kai'Sa Q is incredibly good against both Banshee and Sivir E and all that jazz. Another interesting one is when Kai'Sa dies, she still fires all her rockets. So if I Q here, if you're about to die, press your Q. Still insane amount of damage that comes off when you die. And just to end it off, I want to also talk a little bit about Kai'Sa builds because there's been a lot of people buying crit on Kai'Sa, and I just wanted to showcase why I think crit on Kai'Sa is really bad. So pretty much every champion in the game that buys crit currently, champions like Jinx, champions like Tristana, Aphelios, all of them have a lot of crit scaling. For example, Aphelios, all of his abilities counts as auto attack, so all of them can crit. Jinx, her rockets can crit. Tristana, her E has a crit scaling. But Kai'Sa does not have any of these scalings. Her Q cannot crit, her passive cannot crit, her W cannot crit, her E is attack speed, which is kind of nice with crit, and her ult has no crit scaling. What she does have, however, is hybrid scalings on every single one of her spells, including her passive. But her AP scalings are quite a bit better than her scalings. Mostly because of the fact that her passive has an AP scaling and doesn't have an AD scaling. So what does this mean for us? The most important thing is that despite the fact that the W has a crazy AD ratio, it does do magic damage. And the problem with this is that you would want to go maybe 80 to get a higher W damage, but AP actually gives you more W damage because you get the evolve and you really want Magic Pen to do the most possible damage on her. So that's why I highly recommend a hybrid build on Kai'Sa, and even going on hit even when you have to go 80 Kai'Sa. So my preferred build, if you have to go 80 Kai'Sa, if you're forced to by your team comp, is Kraken, Rageblade, Terminus, BT, and then last item, Situational, with of course Super Circuit Grooves in there. And then if you can go AP, which I think is the best way to play Kai'Sa due to the fact that she has so much AP ratios, I would like going Kraken, into Rageblade, into Nashor's Tooth, into either Void Staff, Sonia's, and then whichever you need last item. So something like Sonia's last, for example. And this way you get all evolves, you get a lot of AP, decent bit of AD, and your W and passive does a lot of damage, and your ult is pretty big shield as well. And you just have a lot of defensive tools while also having a lot of attack speed, so you can both place W poke while also having a really high DPS towards tanks. Now the popular build that a lot of pros have been going is this Yuntal build, with Yuntal into PD, into IE, into LDR. And the thing with this build is you still get Q and E evolve, but you never get W evolve, and your champion essentially has very little interaction with Kai'Sa's passive. And it just makes me wonder, why are you playing a champion like Kai'Sa and going crit when none of her kit actually scales with crit? You could pick something like Tristana instead, that is a similar champion to Kai'Sa, also starts with low range, high mobility, high kill pressure, but actually has crit scaling, which in my opinion would just make way more sense. That's just my general philosophy of Kai'Sa builds. I wanted to include this in the video because I think it shouldn't really be outdated, no matter when you see this. And it's just a general philosophy of how you should build Kai'Sa. And the examples I gave you were more just examples, but the idea is just that on hit and AP items should on Kai'Sa always be better than crit, unless crit items are incredibly overtuned, which I don't think they are right now. She just doesn't have the scaling in her kit that other crit champions have to incentivize buying crit. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I have a website, links down below, for coaching and courses. I hope you guys learned something and you guys can improve and climb. I thank you guys so much for tuning in. Bye bye.